Okay, let's see if we can get this to work and go live. Okay, it says we're live in the event. I just need to check audio. It's always technical difficulties at the beginning, but we'll get this streamlined. Okay, so everyone, a little bit of an introduction. I'm Dr. Rex Alexander, and I'm honored to be with you for this week's live training inside Entrepreneurs Element community. This is our second weekly session, and we're building something powerful here. Each week, we'll bring you insights, strategy, real world tools, things that you can use to grow and elevate your business, as well as things we've learned along the ways that we hope you don't have to make the same mistakes as we did. We want these sessions to be a space where you're not just learning but sharing. We want your experiences, insights, and strategies to help benefit the community. So step up, get involved, let our admins know, and you can be one of the hosts for an upcoming Monday training so that our community can continue to grow from one another. If you missed the first training, make sure you check out our featured section. Brian Kurian, our fellow admin and co-founder of Entrepreneurs Element, led a powerful session on ghostwriting last week and the importance of copy and how it can position you as a thought leader and boost your visibility. It's must watch. But today's topic is very near and dear to me. It's globalization and expanding your market base. This isn't meant to be a buzzword. It's a proven path to growth. I'm the founder and CEO of Clinical Group. It's a network of companies that started with clinical consulting. It's a pharmaceutical consulting company focused on pharmacovigilance and clinical trials. From the beginning, we chose a local strategy that started from Michigan, and in 2019, we decided that we understood that our product and service could definitely have more global impact, and our client base could be on more of a global scale. So we opened our offices in Malta for access to the European Union and MENA, as well as Asia and Australia. And that move is what changed everything. From then, now the group includes clinical services, a staffing and recruitment company, clinical strategies, where we build brands, create marketing campaigns, ghostwrite books and grants, and manage our clients' social media. And then one of our little fun companies is Roastify. It's our coffee and cocoa company. We source ethically from Africa and India, and we supply globally. We bring the farmer's story to the customer. And I'm here to show you that you don't need millions to go global. You need a strategy, you need clarity, and a willingness to expand your mindset. So let's dig in on today's topic. Many entrepreneurs build their business only with their local community in mind. Uh, but what if your most profitable customers are in another state or even another continent? When I started Roastify, I thought our biggest customer would be in the US. But after launching, I realized something interesting. Our story resonated more in Europe and in the Gulf. Why? We emphasized ethical sourcing. We focused on the story and the journey the coffee took so that you understood the value of the coffee that you were getting and the impact it had on the communities and the supply chain that it was going through. And that value only certain regions prioritized and were willing to pay that additional profit for. Um, the market of coffee, it's at a commodity level, and there's also specialties. So for you to get the piece of the pie that you want, you need to understand what type of client you were going to sell to. And the same happened with clinical consulting. We began with a handful of pharma clients in the U.S., but realized a lot of EU-based companies were looking for a lean, smart partner who understood the FDA and EMA, and our presence in Malta gave us instant credibility. So let me ask you, what if your business is already global? You just haven't told the world yet. Globalizing your business expands your income potential, protects you from local market shifts, and raises your brand status. Uh, Let me know in the comments below if you were to choose one country or region to expand to into this year, where would it be? Let's get into like 5 actionable strategies to help you realize this expansion, whether it's from your city to the neighboring city or county to county, or if you're going to go all the way like we did, continent to continent. You might think that your customers are the people around you, but your true audience is often much wider and more specific. Use data tools, Google Trends, Statista, Amazon by country, and meta audience insights. Look at who's searching for your products, where they live, and what terms they're using. Find out their profile. We've helped a lot of US based coach through these ideas and activities through clinical strategies who weren't gaining traction locally. But in places like West Africa or in India, there was a lot better context for their products. And when we were able to push that context and those content into those regions, we saw a significant uptick in client interest. And with the right language and payment gateways, she built 6-figure client base abroad on a language model. Don't just pick up market randomly. Consider the language. You know, when we're dealing with things in West Africa, each country is a different language. And so is it in Europe. Yes, English is always a common language, but oftentimes there are limitations. So understanding your best way to enter those markets is something that you need to consider so that you have the right steps or the right partner to help you get there. Also consider cultural fits. You know, what does that region consider when it comes to something like video games or movie development? Maybe that your niche won't fit into what they like, so that the market won't like to accept that type of product. Also, given that I'm from the pharma industry, I always consider regulations, because regulations are not only about the ease of doing business, but what it takes to stay compliant. I always say that, you know, a company in Europe, it costs, you know, 10,000 times more money to keep a company that's not profitable going because of these strict compliance regulations, where even if you're not making money, you're spending money on accountants and auditors and submissions. Where in the US, you know, if you keep a company hibernating, it's not as big a deal. But at the same time, once you are compliant, you gain a lot of credibility that allows you to do business and create relationships from a very good footing. And this is the reason that we chose Malta as our EU hub. It wasn't just the 300 days of sun, it was a strategic access to the Eurozone and North Africa. Malta has an English-speaking workforce, straightforward company registration, a very nice tax policy. They're in line with Cyprus and, you know, a little bit better than Ireland. And given the foreign values that they have and their integration, they also value innovative and forthcoming companies to come here and start here. So there's a lot of benefits, especially when it comes to grants and EU funding, that you can also get when you open up into these contexts. If you're entering Africa, lean into the diasporas. You know, especially in Europe and in the US and Gulf countries, you have communities that crave authentic products from home. Me being of Indian descent, I'm always looking for that Indian store whenever I go into a new city. Why? I know I can get certain spices or certain things there that I would want, that I couldn't really get at another store. Uh, Now, it doesn't mean you can't sleep on just regional expansion and only go global. You can do something that might be now in your metro area. Um, you can just take over, you know, the tri-state area if you're in the Philly, New Jersey, New York area, or if you're covering Chicago, start going outside of Chicago into the suburbs. Start pushing into Illinois and Minnesota. You know, expansion is about growing your business in a structured way so that you don't have, you know, your feet slip out from underneath you, you know? And another strategy is upgrade your digital foundation. Your website isn't just your business card anymore, it's your global storefront. Whether you're selling a product or a service, you need to make sure that your product is localized for the region that you're selling to. Make sure that it's translated correctly, culturally adapted. Um, we always joke about it. When I studied in Poland, one of the few restaurants we went to that had English translation, for one of the chicken breast dishes that they had on the menu, whoever had translated it from Polish, it had translated to chicken tits. Now, as an American, if you read that, you're going to laugh, but you really did understand what you were going to order. It's not like anybody thought, oh, this is a new part of the chicken that we never heard of from America. This was a silly translation error. So these things can reduce your credibility. The next thing is focus on country specific pricing. Understand that it's not just a currency translation. You have to understand the cost of living in those countries. This is where gamers and if you look at Pirate Software has done a really good job of looking at what the local currencies are and then administrating his game to make sure that he gets very good adoption at those price points. Now, we're very lucky in 2025 that with the current platforms that are available, like Shopify, WooCommerce, Stripe, Odoo, currency support is very, very doable, as well as like multi-language SEO strategies that are built in, secure payment structures for international, friendly gateways like PayPal, Stripe, Flutterware. Um, it's something that will always help you get your clients' trust, and it also gives you some trust so that when international transactions are taking place, that you can follow them up and make sure that they're okay. One thing that we did at Roastify was when we were operating our e-commerce store, we made sure to keep English and German and French and Belgian languages on our store, as well as additional USD, Euro pricing, as well as UAE pricing. Why? We noticed that our customer base was coming from there, so we wanted to make sure that they didn't have to worry about um, using Google to currency convert, let alone have some conversion not work out to what the pricing would be from our end when we have it priced out by region. Um, Now, the other big thing that we can always do that, you know, if you're not ready to go, is that build a strategic partnership. You know, partnerships open doors. You know, you can go hire local micro influencers to test your market, work with a distributor or a local broker. You know, one of the things that we do is connect with countries' embassies. I try to network with local chambers. So recently, we as Clinico got to go to Germany to be on behalf and represent Malta on behalf of the Maltese German Business Council. These type of connections allow you to expand your reach and then also gauge the market while you're there. And a lot of times, these officials at the embassy have a vested interest in increasing trade, so they are always looking to help you out with information, demographics, and their understandings from surveys. And countries like Germany have amazing metrics because their companies are required to be a part of the business chamber. So they often give information based on what they actually feel in the given market. Um, we found partnerships in the UAE as well as Colombia as well as Ghana for our temping staff so that we could have multiple diasporas be access to get international clients, international candidates to fill in for our pharmaceutical clients. It allowed us to serve a broader client base because our recruiters had a wider network, as well as being able to work inside their diaspora to spread the word through their marketing and sales tactics. Um, One of the final keys is start lean. Um, Choose one product, one audience, one region. Test it with a soft launch, maybe a digital product, maybe a small batch if it's physical good. Maybe do a pop-up kitchen if it's a food type item. Maybe do an event when there's a local event, a festival or something like this. And at those events, collect as much feedback as you can. Um, do it again and then keep growing. Each iteration should develop the product for that region and that market so that you can make sure that you're growing up through a scalable and viable way. Um, You could do this through ads as well. Um, I always say if you force yourself on ads, you might be in a point where you're spending and not gaining what you need. So, our marketing ideas are always use yourself as a marketer, and then if you want to prop up sales, use ads to prop up sales or events. Um, Join with local vendors. We partner in different avenues, like in our pharmacovigilance, with other companies to help support those companies and their clients with aspects that they might need in countries that the other partner doesn't support, and vice versa. And this way, we're able to give our clients more services um, without losing that client because they go to a bigger, CRO to find somebody that can do all their services in house. Remember, every big global business started as something small. Very rarely do you start as a multi country conglomeration, um, but your goal is to learn fast, not scale fast. So, the more prepared you are, the better you will be at growing and understanding what you need to do in your market. Um, Here's how some strategies played out in our companies. For clinical consulting, we knew global compliance was complex, so we chose based on regulatory access. Michigan gave us very good proximity to the U.S. FDA, as well as other CROs and clinical trial sites and universities. And Malta gave us the doors to the EU. It gave us a seat at the table with major health authorities and major commercial entities. It also allowed us to present our dual presence to our clients, which made us a viable option for an alternative to a large CRO and their overhead costs. We've always been a company that runs lean because pharmacovigilance is one of the most interesting pharmaco pharmaceutical regulatory sides. It's about drug safety, making sure that any product on the market continues to be safe as we go through it. And a lot of the technology we have today helps us monitor that, whether it's the data, whether it's the approval processes. And this is something that we show a lot of companies that have been doing things like managing it with an Excel from the 1980s. So this is something that we saw, and using this and our ability to be in both continents at the same time, clients have found a way to, stay with us for as long as they have. With clinical strategies, we help people with their, grant writing, which they want. When you're starting up as a startup, you're trying to figure out what's the best way to do this. And then we realized that the more that our network included agencies that did the grants, we were able to go to places like Nigeria and Ghana and Malta and the US and Canada and have a better understanding of how to ensure that our clients get the grants, not just have an incredible grant proposal. And we've helped a few clients land licensing deals, as well as getting grants from universities to continue their technology updates. Um, Now, one of the things that we did when it came to Roastify and scaling, it wasn't about scaling size, it was about scaling networks. When you work with small scale farmers in Ghana and Kenya and Nigeria, you might not get the volume that you need. So we need to make sure that we could work with multiple farmers in that area to come up with the volumes and the quality that we were expecting. And then when the farmers would produce, then we would come back and we need to make sure we develop that story with them so that they're getting the value that they deserve for such a high value commodity. If you imagine that all these beans are picked by hand still, when it comes to specialty coffees out of these places, um, coffee is like one of the cheapest things in the world for the price it is. Now, one of the things that we always say is, as exciting as all of this is, there are things that are easy to avoid and it can cost you a lot. Things like cultural research. With coffee, it was understanding flavor profiles. Coffee doesn't all taste the same. Coffee blends are regional. In the US, you might consider it a little bit more ubiquitous across, but what people enjoy in Italy and what makes a good espresso isn't what makes a good, you know, latte and is what is expected in Germany. So it took us a long time to understand what it was and even the value of coffee in Italy, how how much it was important that the espresso was as flavorful and the crema was beautiful. Um, don't ignore logistics and regulations. You know, recently we had the implementation of regulations on deforesting, which meant that you needed imaging and you needed a lot of documentation before you could bring things like cocoa and coffee into the EU to ensure that you were compliant in the farmer's hands. You know, the farmer hadn't done anything incorrectly. So make sure you have your logistics and regulations set up, especially things like customs clearance, you know, phytosanitary and everything that needs to be done for, you know, food products and things like this, and pharmaceutical as well. Um, and then try not to overspend. You know, it's always, you know, you validated your demand, you've tested the market, and then you go over. Try to be as scaled as possible as you were in the beginning during your expansion. Continue to meet your market without going overboard. That way, if there's any pullback, if there's any changes, if it was maybe, you know, a virality type thing where for 6 months, 8 months, the locals enjoyed it, but then once the hype had, you know, settled down, the interest is gone in your product. And try not to go global alone, depending on what you have. Build a team, even if it's freelancers or, you know, mentors or strategic partners. Getting experience from others always helps you in the long run, you know, and stay consistent. You don't need to conquer the whole world or your whole county in this quarter. You just need to move one step at a time forward each month, you know, and eventually you're going to look back and you're going to see how far you've grown your business. Here's your action challenge this week: pick a country, a city, a region to research. Pick a potential connector or collaborator in that space. Share it in the comments, your market of choice, and what you're looking to learn or build. And we'll get all this together and we'll see what we can do. Maybe this is the first thing that you needed to think about where you could go. And I hope that you get great success for this. Now, remember, this is just week 2. We're building momentum. I encourage you, yes, you watching this, to consider hosting or contributing to a future session. Whether it's just about e-commerce, food tech, writing, mindset, your story can help someone. And if you haven't yet, watch Brian Tukurian's session on ghostwriting. Go do it. It's in the featured section. Trust me. It'll shift how you position. The value that he's taught me about what the message is and how to get your clients to be happy with your message has been invaluable. Thank you for spending time with me today in today's live session for Entrepreneur's Element. Let's keep building across borders. Until next Monday, stay bold, stay global, and I can't wait to see you guys soon.